Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, iHeart listener. We have a confession to make. Both iHeart and this commercial you're listening to right now would probably sound a heck of a lot better on the new Roku Pro Series TV. It's got side-firing speakers that fill your room with sound, Dolby Atmos audio that puts you right in the middle of the entertainment, and the ability to pair seamlessly with your home theater sound systems that already have surround sound and booming bass. If all that sounds too good to be true, it'll sound even better on the new Roku Pro Series. Your hearing isn't better, your TV is.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
It's over! Fly, Eagles, fly!
Celebrate the big win with the official licensed Super Bowl champions gear. Available now at NFLshop.com.
The Eagles win it! Super Bowl 59!
From jerseys to hats to must-have collectibles, we've got everything you need to rep your team with pride. Don't wait. These styles won't last. Shop now at NFLshop.com and gear up like a champion.
Back on the fan, this is Lavelle Neal filling in for Dan Barreiro. Get well quickly, sir. Your dulcet tones are missed in this time slot every day. So we just talked to Parker Fox of the Gopher men's basketball team about their glorious road trip to California. And now we're going to go to another warm place, Fort Myers, Florida, where I don't know what his title is anymore. I don't know if he's a president or a GM or baseball operations major domo or what. But we're going to bring on Derek Falvey to talk about what's going on down in camp. Derek, what's going on?
Well, good to be on with you. I'm just trying to chase your title, whatever that is, because I think you got the life here right now up north.
My title would be director in fraud. Being able to pull this off as long as I have. So,
beautiful. Well, we miss you down here in Florida, and I know you probably miss a little bit of the weather, but I'm sure we'll see you here soon.
I didn't mind the 47 days of spring training. I really didn't. I never did. Especially you can immerse yourself in baseball, and sleep is secondary at this time of year for me. So I'll be down there on March 5th, and I'll be there for about 2 weeks. So looking forward to it. My first question is, are you officially president yet, or when's this handoff going to take place?
It's on its way, but the Dave St. Peter as well as anybody. He's been a tremendous steward of this franchise for a really long time, leading up all things Twins and such a great representative in this community. And I've worked alongside him for the last 8 years, going on 9 here, and we're working through what that transition looks like. It'll happen here during the month of March, and ultimately, officially, he'll transition into an advisory capacity. But I feel very fortunate to work with the people I do, with the leaders I've got around this team. And ultimately giving ourselves a chance to continue to build the best organization we can.
So will there be an official ceremony in which he hands over the keys to his office to you, or what? How is this going to take place?
I don't think it'll be that formal, though it might be, sometime when you're down here in March. So maybe we'll bring you along to christen it along the way. But I would say that, certainly Dave is really not going anywhere on a lot of fronts. He will be that advisor. He should still be involved in a few areas of our business. That's what I've been really fortunate to have in this conversation is, as Dave said back in the fall when he transitioned, it's a conversation he's had ongoing with the Pohlad family for an extended period of time, one that they asked me about and to consider. And as we worked through it, it's been great to get to know a little more of some of the day-to-day that's on his plate, the areas where we're going to have other people step up. We have great leaders on our business side that can help lead, and I want to be able to empower them to continue to do the jobs that they do.
Excellent. I want to talk to you about offense because it seems like this offensive stuff has popped up here the last couple of days. It came up during media day when Rocco told me his desire to kind of focus on the offense a little bit and get guys to be, I don't want to say more professional at bats, but in specialty situations to execute in a different way than what they've done in the past here. And I find this interesting because there's nothing wrong with trying to be the best version of yourself as a team. But the Twins were 10th in runs scored. Can you kind of describe what Rocco's trying to achieve, especially with runners in scoring position? He doesn't want guys, swing. I don't want to say swinging for the fences, but he wants to see, balls put in play a little bit more often, using all parts of the field a little bit more. Am I close to being right on that?
Yeah, I think, Lavelle, you're on it. I mean, when we look at it, you said it. We were 10th in runs scored last year, which obviously, among 30 clubs will still put you in a decent spot. And we think about how we played through most of the year and the way we put ourselves in good position. But as we did a bit of a postmortem on the end of the year, what we could do better, how we could improve, we do that every year. But we wanted to really hone in on the areas where we feel we fell short. And at the end of the season, I think we had too many games where we weren't able to deliver the runs in the big spots to keep us in those games. And ultimately, it's what cost us a chance to go back to the postseason after our run in 2023. So we focused on ways that we can continue to talk about what are those adjustments? What do they mean? It's nice to say that you want to put the ball in play and go the other way a little bit. That's nice to say on paper, but what does it mean in practice? And I think it's about knowing that guys don't need to be the one to hit the 3-run homer every time, right? Sometimes the goal of your at-bat is to just hand the at-bat over to the next guy in the line. And I think it's about a mindset, particularly maybe in deeper counts, when you're a little later in at-bat, making adjustments back to a pitcher. And I think for some of our young hitters who stepped up last year, they felt they needed to do it all in big moments, and especially when we were having those one-run games and really tight games late. So We'll continue to compete. Our guys are professional hitters. Matt Borgschulte, who came in as our hitting coach, is really prepared and has a good message for the way our guys are going to compete in at-bats, and we're excited about the group that we have.
And when you have Buxton and Correa both kind of out of the lineup with injuries, that leaves a bunch of guys that haven't gotten 1,000 at bats yet, I think, right? So, I mean, that's another component to it, isn't it?
It absolutely is. I've had this conversation with Justin Morneau a good bit. And, when did you start to feel comfortable at the big league level? He said, the view there was you had to get close to that number you just discussed. And that takes multiple seasons to really feel like you can make the adjustment, what it looks like. Obviously, some young players come up and perform, but they go through some downturns too. And we experienced it last year. A young hitter like Royce Lewis who went through some of those struggles. But we know that, whether it's Royce or Eddie Julian or others that have had success at the big league level, we know they can get back to that. We just need to make sure that we're prepared and ready to get through a season. But for us, it's all about if we can keep those guys on the field, Carlos Correa, Byron Buxton, Royce, to match some of the pitching that we have, which we think is a good group of starters, a deep group, and then ultimately the back end of a bullpen led by Joan Duran and Griffin Jacks. We feel we can compete every night. We just need to make sure we go out and do it.
Right. And Phil Miller had a story today about stolen bases, which I thought was pretty funny. I mean, teams that have guys who can steal bases will steal bases. Teams that don't have guys that can steal don't want them to steal. And I think, I don't know, it's not by design because, trying to get that guys developed to get to the majors is a process, and you don't know who they are until they get to the majors. But as it turns out, you don't have a lot of speed. I read Rockeroo's comment about Buxton. I expect you to steal 60 every year. I've talked to Buck, and I told Buck this. I said, you don't get on first base enough to steal bases. And when you touch the ball the way you can touch the ball, it's a double, triple, a homer, and you really don't walk a lot. And so you kind of have a roster there that doesn't really mesh well when it comes to having a running game, even with the enlarged stolen bases. Within that, how many guys do you think you have on your roster who could swipe a base for you if you needed it?
Yeah, I think it's a reality of our industry. We've certainly seen it. It's not just the Twins. Ultimately, we haven't been a speed-oriented team for sure. Our goal is to try and figure out a way with the personnel we have, as you said, Lavelle, to put ourselves in position to score the runs. And for us, it hasn't been with a lot of speed behind it. Even though a guy like Byron Buxton, you said it, I mean, he doubles, triples, homers, are part of his game too. Just because he has speed doesn't mean that he's not going to have those elements too. But when I look at our team, I actually think maybe more than even the last few years, Willie Castro a couple of years ago was among the league leaders in stolen bases and the ability to lead us, certainly. And then we added Harrison Bader, who we think is a real weapon. He'll be another guy that can play both elite defense and steal a base when needed late in the game. So if we get both those guys to contribute the way I believe that they can, I think we put ourselves in a position to maybe add a few runs along the way in some really critical spots.
All right, gotcha. What's going to determine who is the primary first baseman this year?
when we look at our team, we're walking into camp with what we feel like are a few guys that can certainly get there. And I know entering camp, there weren't a lot of guys with a lot of history there, but we signed Ty France recently, added him to the mix. We think just a couple of years ago, this guy was an all-star, got off track a little bit offensively. He knows the things he needed to get back to, and we think he's had a good offseason there. But then you have players like Jose Miranda and Eddie Julian that we're going to get a lot of time over there. They will ultimately give themselves the chance to go prove that they can go earn an opportunity at first base too. So we feel our infield group as a whole is deep. Some of these guys are going to need to step up and take on that opportunity, but I feel like we've given ourselves some options that will ultimately give us a chance to go compete there.
Every position, defensive position on the field has its demands and has its requirements for excellence. I think some people look at first base as that's where you just put the biggest guy on the field, who isn't as mobile. He can just catch throws. But there is a science to playing first. I don't know, when Joe Mauer moved over there, he had a lot of pride and did not want to stink at first base. And he was conscious about that as he made the transition. And now you got a couple guys in Miranda and Julian who don't have a lot of time there. But the demands at first base, can you kind of explain to everyone how that position cannot be taken for granted?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Lavelle. I think that it was always the case, maybe just looking back in history of the game and, where the guy who wasn't as fast didn't move around as well, maybe more power-oriented was at first. But when you think about the quality of the infielders that you have around baseball and the throws that they have to make and sometimes the athleticism it takes to get to a ball, you need someone over there that has really good hands, that can get to the right spot in terms of the ability to pick a ball and pick up his infielder. We see that all the time. Carlos Santana did a great job for us last year in that role, and I think saved our infielders quite a few tough throws. And our other guys are going to need to step up to do that too. So it's definitely not about just the guy that the last athlete on your team playing first. It's about a guy that really knows how to pick up other guys and really have good hands around the bag.
No doubt. We're talking here with Twins soon-to-be president Derek Falvey. Just a couple more from him before we let him go. Another subject I've read in our paper today, our guys seem to be obsessed with offense, but the whole batting practice thing, I'm trying to get your views on that. We've had these discussions before about how hard it is to practice baseball because you can't practice it at game conditions. And players had different views about how to get their swings ready for games. I covered guys who thought they got more out of the foot throws in the cage inside stadiums than they did going through batting practice. I covered Justin Morneau, and he was on that power development program where you focus hitting the bottom half of the ball off the tee. He actually would like to go out on the field and put the tee out there so you can see what the ball is doing. What is your theory, or what type of strategy should there be in terms of making sure your players are getting prepared the best way for games? Is the way to go to allow them to get ready on their own, or does this? It looks like there may be a concerted effort to get them to be on the field more. How's that kind of meshing here?
Yeah, I think, Lavelle, what you're talking about there and what you learned from Justin and from other guys you've been around over the course of your career is that you need a lot of tools in the toolbox. You need to make sure that you have a lot of options based on different needs from different guys. We now have everything from a full-speed pitching machine in the cage that can throw 90-mile-an-hour cutters and 94-mile-an-hour fastballs with carry and that stay at the top of the zone.
Right.
And that's an important skill to develop. You need a guy to go in there and do some of that work, especially if he's getting beat up pretty consistently with fastballs at the top of the zone. So you need to work on that. But also, there is some real benefit to being on the field, getting a look at the batter's eye, making sure you see how a ball travels, get a feel for that adjustment that you're trying to make. So I think what Justin said is exactly right. Sometimes putting a tee on the field to see how a ball carries is really valuable for that one individual guy working on something. For us this year, we are going to focus a little more on getting guys on the field, a little more BP routine, and also what that brings with it is a little more defensive work. Sometimes the best part about batting practice is a fielder going to his position and being able to see a ball off the bat a little bit more before the game, just to get those routine reps in as much as you can over the course of a long season.
Ooh, especially someone like Royce Lewis that hasn't played a lot of second base. You get used to seeing the line drives from that aspect of the field. I got to ask you, what other thing I was going to ask you about here? You mentioned the machines that could cut baseballs and throw breaking balls. Don't you have one that can be turned up to like 100 miles an hour too?
We do. I mean, everyone has a different version of a machine now. The cool part is you can have a regular, machine with wheels that throws that hard. But now many of us have machines that actually show you the video of a pitcher with the ball coming out of a hole in the machine, so it matches what the delivery of a pitcher looks like.
Oh, wow.
I mean, all of these systems are much more advanced than they ever were before. We continue to invest in that because we know that developmentally it has a huge benefit if done right. You still need some traditional measures and ways of going about it, but you also got to find a way to, as you said, the hardest thing in baseball to do is practice at full speed. It doesn't happen that often. It's hard to face Pablo Lopez in practice regularly during a season. So you've got to find ways to be able to do it, and we hopefully have some of the technology and tools that allow us to.
I bring this up because your clubhouse attendant walked up to me late in the season, and this ended up becoming a spirited conversation with the emphasis on spirited about if I could get in front of that machine, could I touch a 100-mile-an-hour pitch? And I said, if I gave you 100 swings, do you think you could just connect one time? I said, I would like to think that I would connect once. And he just exploded, saying, "There's no way you're going to get around." I said, if it's a straight ball being thrown in the same general area, I like to think that I could actually touch the ball once. Now, do I have 100 swings in me? That's the bigger story, to pull this off. So you're a little bit younger than me, Derek. Do you think if you got it up to the dish right now and they turn that thing up to 100 miles an hour, could you make contact?
I think we're working with nuances of definitions here, because I think if you can touch it, that's one thing. If you can actually hit it and drive it back the other way, that's a different story altogether. The cool part about that machine is you can rotate between fastball, breaking ball, changeup, splitter. So I've seen some movement on those pitches that I can guarantee if I had 100 swings at those speeds, there's no chance I'm touching it. So it's a unique machine. It's hard to hit in the big leagues. It's one of the hardest things to do in all of sports, and hopefully you and I never have to worry about that.
All right, a couple more for Derek here. Everybody, Twins Fest apparently was like a great weekend because of the clean bill of health most of your roster was given, except for Brock Stewart. He's coming back from surgery, so he's going to be treated a little more carefully. What does that look like? How far behind will he be? How deliberate will you be with kind of ramping him up?
Yeah, you said it, Lavelle. One of the best parts of Twins Fest was seeing, all the guys, whether it was Carlos or Byron, Royce, Joe Ryan, who finished the year, with an injury and ultimately has had an awesome offseason and back to full form. It was good to know that we're going to enter camp with where guys were physically and ready to go. In Brock's case, he did have a cleanup surgery at the end of last season. Our focus here is just to kind of get him on his regular bullpen routine, build him up. I think all this means really is that he's probably later getting into games than some of the other relievers who are ready to go right from the outset, and then we'll progress them from there. We'll have a better idea once we get into the month of March, once we're into some games, as to how he's progressing in terms of number of outings that he's gotten. If that means that he's not fully, ready to go at the end of camp, we'll find that out then. But there's a shot that certainly if he progresses well in March, he'll be right alongside the other guys.
All right. At what point will you decide what path Louis Varland would head down? Will he be built up to be a starter, or has it already been determined that he's probably going to work out of the bullpen? This has been kind of a discussion point over the last couple of years. I would tell you this, having spoken to some members of his family, they actually think he should be a reliever. But I think Louis still wants to start. So where are we slotting him at this year?
Yeah, well, it's funny. Maybe some of his family's had some influence on him of late, because I would say that we've had some good conversations with Louis. Every young pitcher wants to start, and you want to continue to build him out that way. And we did that with Louis last year for sure. We continue to give him that opportunity. He has the pitches and the ability to go do it, but he also, we know, can be a dominant reliever. We've had a few guys along the way, whether it's Joan Duran or Griffin Jacks or even Cole Sands last year, who emerged as a key member of our bullpen. All of those guys have had starting history, as most major league relievers have. And I think that for him, he's certainly got the ability to go multiple innings, maybe in a big spot in the middle of a game, but he will track a little bit more toward bullpen work this spring to give himself that readiness and that opportunity when we break camp.
Okay. Your bullpen has been projected by some people of being the best or the second best in baseball this season. How nervous does that make you, knowing, because we've had this conversation too, about the reality that bullpens can be volatile from year to year?
It always makes me nervous. Everything about pitching makes me nervous, just because you know that the health and the performance there are so intertwined. You got to make sure you get everyone prepared, and you got to have a little luck on your side too. You got to make sure everyone tracks the right direction, you stay healthy, and everything works. But we do feel like we have a good group, a deep group. I mean, I just mentioned a few, and in Duran, Jackson, Sands toward the end of the year last year, those guys were really good for us. I think adding a Danny Coulomb back, who we know well, who's been a really dominant left-handed reliever the last couple of years, and then the rest of the young guys, the guys that stretch out all the way through. We just mentioned Brock Stewart, who we know was dominant in 2023 when healthy. Louis Varland, we've seen in that same capacity. There's just so many guys that can really step in to that role if they take it on this spring, and I feel really good about the group that we have.
Yeah, I think things got, I think things kind of reached critical mass late last year when you guys are trying to win games late, and you had the late slide, and Rocco was trying to win with, rookies and Zebby and Festa and Simeon hitting the wall and had to be, shut down because of innings. Your stars were making 3 or 4 inning starts, and then you had to go to the bullpen asking them to get 15, 16 outs a night. And I think the bullpen ended up, suffering a little bit because of that. But, coming back this year with the experience that you have in your rotation and the fact that Stewart's going to be healthy, Varland's going to be in the mix, Akala's back, and Jackson Sands, Jackson's one of the best of his roles last year. I think games in which the Twins are leading after 6 innings, you're going to feel good about your chances of closing those out.
I really hope so, because I think what you just said, we certainly had some young players right in the fire last year. And there's 2 sides to that. Obviously, it makes it hard in those moments to win and to get through some of those games, but you also will learn a ton from those experiences. And when I think back on what a young Zebby went through, or David Fester, or you just mentioned Simeon, or even some of those relievers, to be tested in those moments, it builds a foundation. It gives you the experience to know, okay, now I know what this looks like late in the season in a pennant race, and I know what I want it to look like next year when I get there and we perform in a better way. So I think the experience is invaluable. You can't get it any other way. Hopefully all those guys have benefited from that and led into their off seasons to get ready for 25.
Great stuff, Derek. I appreciate your time. I know I probably delayed your dinner plans at, 2 Meatballs in the Kitchen or one of those other great restaurants down in Fort Myers. So I'll let you go on your way here. But thanks a lot for your time. Hopefully you have a stress-less spring training camp and without any injuries or any drama. And I'll be down there to see things for myself on the 5th.
Look forward to seeing you, Lavelle, and always enjoy talking baseball with you.
All right, take care. There's Derek Falvey, Twins' near future president. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, are we going to have a short segment and then bring in Gorg, or just go straight to Gorg?
I think we're going straight to Gorg here.
Okay. I'm not in trouble for this now, am I?
No, we're all a part of the plan here. I've got it all under control.
Okay. All right. Well, just, give me the sign here if we need to take a break here. But when we come back, we're going to have Gorgomatic come on, and we're going to talk hockey because the game of the century is set for tomorrow.
Before we go, the fan wants to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand at the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. Enter the keyword credit for this hour. The keyword is credit, KFAN.com. Keyword credit.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, is this right? Is Inter Miami and Swarton, Kansas City playing tonight? ESPN was claiming this. I thought the game got postponed or pushed back. I thought it was like a Saturday game.
I don't know if it got postponed, but I remember reading the story that Messi is essentially refusing to play, which, welcome to America. I mean, I remember when Hugo Lloris came over and he plays for LA, and his first game was in Utah in like a blizzard. Like, that's why we don't have their schedule, is because it's freezing here. So, good luck.
There's no way we can go to the same schedule as the European leagues. I know Dan Garber's talked about it.
We would have to put a dome on every stadium for that to happen.
But I think in Miami, he's supposed to play at Kansas City, and it's really, really cold in Kansas City right now. Yeah. That's going to be. Messi may retire.
I doubt he's going to be on the bench. I'll tell you that much. He'll be in the suite at the very least.
I know.
Anyways.
This is a mess here. I want to cover the cleanup here. I screwed up. Tomasavljevic, who's the center for Illinois, is from Croatia. I think I said Bosnia-Herzegovina. You figured I would remember that the guy's from the same country that produced Tony Kukoc. So my apologies on that one. So, all right, that's soccer talk for today, and that's basketball talk for today. We're going to switch to hockey talk because the greatest game in the history of hockey is about to be played, and we have to get fired up for it. And to help us get fired up, we brought on Kevin Gorg from FanDuel Sports Network, or whatever it is. Gorgie.
Well, Lavelle, I got to give you some kudos. Clock management skills today, right on time. You told me 4:30. Brett called me right on the nose at 4:30. So, yeah, you're running a good show here. Yeah,
we've been, there's been some jiggling going on here with the scheduling and making some adjustments and straddling things and not straddling things. And I cut off Guardsy to go to break. That was my power move for the day. So I'm proud of myself on that one, man. So you know what it's like. You've been in this chair before.
You're the big cheese, man. You're in the big chair. So you gotta plan accordingly. You don't cut off guys like Guardsy. That this is their real estate. You're going to make mistakes, but now you've got, another couple hours to make up for it.
KG, I believe the Wild are back at practice, right?
They are. Now, they're going to take the day off tomorrow. They've given the Swedes a little time to recover since they got back from the Four Nations face-off. But Friday, it looks like Brodinec and Gustafsson will be back at the rink practicing at Tria. And then the guys that are playing tomorrow night and coaching tomorrow night, along with Billy Guerin. So you're talking about Faber,
Boldy,
the coach, Johnny Hines, and Billy Guerin are going to fly and meet the guys in Detroit for that awkward game Saturday morning. I got to tell you, for the guys playing tomorrow night, that's an awfully quick turnaround. And I know the rest of the squad, it was somewhere warm on a beach and really taking that 2-week vacation. So to get those guys back from Team USA and put them back, and Boldy and Faber play such a significant role for Minnesota. And right now, Detroit is no bargain. The Wings have been one of the hottest teams in the league since they made that coaching change, and Tom McClellan's done a great job with them. They play with speed. So I'll be very curious to see specifically how those two guys come back this weekend. It's a home and home. The Wild will get another chance against the Red Wings next Tuesday in St. Paul, but it's time to get back to it. It's the stretch drive, the final 6 weeks to get into playoff position and find out, if and when the Wild get there, who they're going to play.
So Dylan Larkin's going through the same thing then because he's with Detroit, right?
Exactly. He's such a spectacular player. He scored a huge goal over the weekend. And, this has been great. And I know hockey is the fourth of the four major sports. That's probably always going to be the case. But when you have what we had last Saturday, where you've got that type of viewership and social media blows up with all the antics early in the hockey game, and then the quality of play we've seen throughout the tournament, but specifically with U.S. and Canada, and now they meet again. This is great for the game. It's rare that hockey gets center stage, but because football's over and basketball was on their all-star break, this was one of those unique situations where hockey had an opportunity. And if anybody was skeptical going in, they're not anymore. These guys absolutely put it all on the ice when they're playing for their country. It's looked and felt and played out like Stanley Cup playoff games, and that's exactly what we needed.
Did you see that Matthew Tkachuk and Brandon Hagel are taking Trayton Barbs now before the game?
That's exactly what Matthew Tkachuk wants to do. He wants to get in the kitchen. If you look at the speed and the skill that Canada has, they're the better team on paper. I think anybody can see that McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, Makar, these are our best of the best at their position. Mm-hmm. What the U.S. has had going for them throughout this whole, Four Nations face-off is the way they play together, the physical part of the game, and the depth that they have on that roster.
Right.
Now, it's going to be tested. If you're handicapping this championship game, remember that Cale Makar, the best defenseman on the planet, did not play for Team Canada on Saturday. And one of the U.S.'s best defensemen, Charlie McAvoy, who plays for the Boston Bruins, is out tomorrow night. That is a huge swing in the favor of Team Canada. I come back to one thing. These teams are very equal in terms of how these games play out up front and even on that blue line. But the edge that the U.S. has to have is Connor Hellebuck. I believe he's the best goaltender on the planet. I think Jordan Bennington has won a cup. I think he's a solid goalie.
He's not Connor Hellebuck. That's the edge the U.S. has, and he has to outplay his guy tomorrow night if the U.S. is going to win this hockey game.
Bennington is not the guy he was 3 or 4 years ago, right?
He won a cup with St. Louis back in 19. He's the guy that Fleury wanted to fight. He's the guy that Ryan Hartman tends to get under his skin every time the Wild play the Blues. He runs a little hot. He's a terrific puck-playing goalie. But as far as stopping the puck, the last couple of years, Lavelle, he's been middle of the pack, and the Blues have suffered because of it. So, Hellebuck and the Jets have kind of been the story this year in the National. And, I look at Hellebuck right now as the very best of his position. In fact, the guy backing him up, Lakeville's own Jake Ottinger, might be one of the best 2 or 3 goalies in the world as well. And he's playing a backup role because of the skill set of Connor Hellebuck. So that's the edge that the U.S. has to have.
Yes.
McAvoy's a huge loss on that blue line. The silver lining for us as Wild fans, it's probably going to give us a chance to see Brock Faber play even more minutes. And the way the U.S. defended McKinnon and McDavid in their speed through the neutral zone on Saturday was the difference in the hockey game. And it wasn't just the gaps that the defensemen had. They were up in the face of these guys. They weren't allowing them to build up speed outside of the first goal that Canada scored. But as the game progressed, the forwards really did a great job of clogging up that neutral zone as well and really frustrating those 2 speed merchants. And they're going to try to take over the hockey game every time they're on the ice. And it's scary how fast Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid are and how quick they can get to open space. To me, without McAvoy, now you got Slavin and Faber as maybe that top pairing really having to go out there and defend them. And it's something Brock Faber does on a nightly basis with the Wild. It's just a whole lot different when all 5 guys you're defending are this elite.
Gorgie, we're talking with Kevin Gorg about the greatest game in the history of hockey coming up tomorrow. But here's my thing, though. Since Tom Wilson's not on the team, you could pound away on Sidney and pound away on McKinnon, right?
Pound away to a stretch. But if you want to take penalties and put that video game power play out there for Team Canada that features Makar quarterbacking these forwards I've already mentioned, pack a lunch. And we learned early in the tournament in game number 1, when Sweden took a penalty on the opening shift, just how problematic that can be. So pound away if you can get away with it. But if you start taking penalties and you're the U.S., you got no shot. And no matter what happens tomorrow night, Lavelle, there is one hockey game that will never be topped, and that's 1980. We're coming up on the
25th
anniversary of February 22nd in that magical year of 1980 and the Miracle on Ice. So whatever they do tomorrow night is going to be awesome. I can't wait to watch. I've got my popcorn ready. You're never going to top what we saw with Herbie Brooks' squad.
No, never. So now it's at a function. It was a function at Fuqua School. One of they were talking about that, and it was just bringing back great memories, man, of that time. That was back when it wasn't on live television. You all had to watch the replay later that day.
It was on at 8:00 at night.
Yep.
The game was long over, and of course it's before the internet. I was hosting. It was my 13th birthday week, and I was hosting 7 or 8 hockey playing buddies. And I'm the only guy that turned on the radio that afternoon to listen to the game. In fact, my dad ridiculed me, saying, "I don't know why you're tuning in. They're going to get killed. You're wasting your time." And then that whole thing plays out. And my parents had to sit me down and say, "Listen, you can't spoil this for your buddies when they get here. We've got the pizza order. We've got the knee hockey going. We're going to watch ABC in prime time." And the other guys didn't know the result. It's just a different world. It's hard to explain to people. But the cool thing is, now, in 2025, all these guys that play for the U.S. have talked about it leading into this tournament, how much they love watching the movie Miracle and how that kind of ties this whole thing back full circle. They've got the lines memorized, all the different things that happened within that tournament back then in 1980. These guys can bring back to the table now, and I think you're going to hear the USA chants throughout TD Garden. Boston's going to be, I'm telling you, it's going to be nuts in there. That is a fun place to watch a hockey game. There'll be plenty of beverages flowing, and that crowd is going to be amped up. I really can't wait to see the way this thing plays out, because there's a lot of bad blood. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot at stake. And then you get a juiced up crowd, 8:00 start on the East Coast. I mean, it's going to be big fun.
All right, I can hear you excited. You're almost coming through this microphone right now. You're so fired up for this game, right? So it's calm down, relax. We don't want you to blow a gasket, okay? So we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back. And we're going to talk some more about this game, all right? So I just want you to catch a breath here while we while I have a word from our sponsors here in the Fan.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
It's a Wild Wednesday on The Fan. It's presented by Jim Beam, the official bourbon of the Minnesota Wild. We've got Gorg on right now talking hockey, and we've got your tickets to see them in action. Be caller number 11 right now to win a pair of tickets to see your Minnesota Wild take on the Boston Bruins March 2nd, 1-800-320-5326. It's a Wild Wednesday on The Fan.
Back on a fan here with Kevin Gorg. We're talking about the greatest game in history of hockey that's about to be played tomorrow. Just for clarification purposes, I mentioned the spat between Tkachuk and the guy and Hagel from Canada. It stems over Tkachuk being on a group chat talking about how they're going to play and what they're going to play and who they're going to do what to when they face Canada. And Hagel complained about it and said, we don't do group chat. And then Tkachuk fired back with, well, maybe you guys just don't like each other as much as we like our teammates. And so that's the type of stuff that's going on before this game. Kevin, this I think this has been a fantastic week for the sport. We know how it's come about. There have not been a best on best in the Olympics since 2014. So I kind of think that those 9 seconds at the beginning of the USA-Canada game was just 11 years of pent-up frustration about not being able to play each other. But it's a great format. I don't know if it has much of a future. I think your colleague Michael Russo said it's a tournament without a past and probably without a future because you're going to have the World Cup. You have the Olympics and you have the World Cup of hockey every other year too. And it looks like there may not be room for four nations. Plus, if things get better politically, you want to expand it to include a couple other countries, but then you would take 2 weeks or more off in the middle of the season to have something like this. What do you think is going to come out of this, and what it's meant to the game, and what it's meant to fan bases to see hockey at its highest level? How do you think the NHL should capitalize on the four nations?
Well, it's going to be a precursor to a World Cup of hockey that includes probably 8 teams. So maybe it won't be called the Four Nations Face-Off. So, Michael Russo is spot on in that it's probably not going to have longevity with this format. But there will be something. And I think what this league is trying to do is incorporate their All-Star break and turn it into something more meaningful where they can grow the game. And they're trying to bring more eyeballs to the sport. And this has done exactly that. What we saw over the weekend has brought more people to the game. What's going to happen tomorrow night is going to bring more people to the game of hockey. How they can capitalize on that is it's late enough in the season where you hope that the people you bring to it like what they're seeing, enjoyed some of the animosity, the passion, the speed, the skill, and they tune in down the stretch, and more importantly, when the playoffs start. And moving forward, this is a precursor to the Olympic break, next year. And you hope that with the NHL players involved, there's the same type of passion involved with that. Because if we're all just talking about being sports rubes, we are attracted to greatness and to special moments. And, if you want to get a guy like me to watch a basketball game, which last year for the first time I really dove into the Timberwolves because there was something great going on. And that playoff run was spectacular. Hockey's got to have the same thing. You've got to bring the casual sports fan to the table. And so I understand the criticism of some of the stuff that went on in the first minute of that hockey game. But the bottom line, Lavelle, is this. That was organic. That was something that the U.S. felt gave them an advantage because Canada clearly has more speed and skill. If you turn it into a backyard brawl and a type of hockey game where the physical play and the animosity was ramped up, that gave the U.S. a chance to win. So there was strategy involved. You can downplay it all you want. Fighting has been a part and will be a part of the game of hockey. I don't love it, but it's a fact. And it played a huge role in the U.S. winning that hockey game. And they were able to walk the line all night long. They were mashing guys, but they weren't taking dumb penalties. That's the fear you have to have going into the tomorrow night. Can they come out, play the same type of physical game, and not give Team Canada 4, 5, 6, 7 penalties, because that will kill their chances of winning.
All right, a couple things off of that. So you believe that the NHL is willing to get behind shutting down the league for, 2 weeks? Or for the Olympics, it would be more than 2 weeks? Every other year for an Olympics followed by 4 nations. How comfortable do you think the league's going to be with that? And 2, Charlie McAvoy got injured against Finland, and apparently he now has an infection in his shoulder. I'm sure that teams are crossing their fingers and holding their lucky rabbit's feet to make in hopes that their players don't get a serious injury. Theodore, looks like he broke a wrist, right? How much is that going to be under consideration here as far when it comes to scheduling these types of events mid-NHL season?
Well, to be clear, if it's an Olympic year, you're not going to have any of this stuff. It's going to just be an Olympic year, and you are going to break for roughly 2 weeks.
Right.
To let your guys go play in the Winter Olympics. You're not going to pile on with that and have another 4 nations type of event. But the injuries were the one thing that could submarine this whole thing moving forward. And I'm talking 4 nations, World Cup, Olympics. If you start seeing these guys drop like flies where they're losing top-end players, then I think you're going to see some pushback from not just the owners, but the Players Association. Because, as you guys know, the NHL regular season is an absolute grind. That 82-game schedule is legitimately physically demanding on these guys. And for the players that play in this tournament, and, we just talked about Boldy and Faber. You look at the players like Larkin along with them that'll come back and play a game this weekend on Saturday. That's an awfully quick turnaround. Now, to their credit, they have spaced these games out. They haven't played back-to-back. The U.S. is going to play with a couple of extra days of rest tomorrow night. So that's going to give these guys a chance to recharge. But mentally, they haven't had any break. Their teammates were on the beach for 7 or 8 days and just got back to practice here a couple days ago. They've been on the grind the entire time. And if we didn't realize it going in, they're taking this as serious as any Stanley Cup playoff run. So you're talking meetings, you're talking film, you're talking practice, you're talking probably more intensity than they would have thrown out if they didn't have a break and they were just playing regular season games. So that's the line they're going to have to walk, Lavelle. Mm-hmm. The greater good is what this can do for the game of hockey and Correct. How they can grow the game and bring more people to it. And the bottom line is that brings more revenue, and that makes everybody happy. So that's kind of the teeter-totter of balance there as they walk through this for the first time and reflect on how it plays out.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to be watching out for going forward, because once again, NHL players have not played in the Olympics since 2014, and now you're going to go to a setup in which they're doing this best on best every other year. And will you go from lack of having such a format to overload so quickly? And that is what I'm concerned about. I'm all for it. I love to see it. It beats the old NHL All-Star game by 1 million miles. But you hope that injuries or people just getting tired of having this type of grind every other year will force them to recalibrate some of this as well. So it's time, Mr. Gorg. Sorry to sound like PA, but who wins tomorrow and why?
I'm going to come back to goaltending. I believe in a game like this, it's likely going to come down to 1 goal. In a game where there's going to be a ton of great chances both ways, I think you're going to have to get to 4 to win. I don't think it's going to be as low scoring as the game we saw over the weekend where the U.S. was really able to shut down Canada. I don't think that's going to be able to happen again. So I think if you want to win, you got to get to 4. I think it's going to be a 1-goal game. And as I said at the start of our conversation, I truly believe Connor Hellebuck is significantly better than Jordan Binnington. So I am going to give the U.S. a 4-3 victory, although I think it's going to be an absolute grinder. And with Makar back in and McAvoy back out, the task at hand will be more difficult. And I think the other subtle thing that might favor the U.S. is that crowd in Boston is going to be electric. They are going to be ready to roll. And from the anthems on out, that can play a significant part in this. But I just think it's going to be fascinating to see how these two teams adjust to what happened over the weekend and how they come back and try to play this one out. You've got the best coaches in the world. You've got the best players in the world. And, you've got all this passion that both these countries are throwing into this, all that pressure that goes along with it. This is one of those nights where if you're just a casual sports fan, you have to tune in to see how this plays out.
Absolutely. Great stuff, Kevin. Love the enthusiasm. Have fun watching the game tomorrow. I'll see you at the X for a Wild game as they try to finish strong here down the stretch. Thanks for joining us today.
Love being with you guys. Have a great rest of the show. Take care.
That's Kevin Gorg, local hockey wonk here on the Fan. When we come back, we're going to have top 5 at 5. Not sure what's going to be involved. That's up to Brett Blakemore. But we're going to have a top 5 at 5. Any teasers?
More hockey and some controversial Vikings tweets.
Oh, no.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
What are you looking for in a new smart TV? 4K picture quality? High quality and immersive sound? A sleek design? All of those are givens, but only the new Roku Pro Series has all of those and the Roku streaming experience, an award-winning OS. Get fast, easy access to all your apps like iHeart, where you can stream all your favorite music, radio, and podcasts all day, and regular all-inclusive trips to Roku City. The new Roku Pro Series, a smart TV built by the streaming pros.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
It's over! Fly, Eagles, fly!
Celebrate the big win with the official licensed Super Bowl champions gear. Available now at NFLShop.com.
The Eagles win it! Super Bowl 59!
From jerseys to hats to must-have collectibles, we've got everything you need to rep your team with pride. Don't wait. These styles won't last. Shop now at NFLShop.com and gear up like a champion.